Hey little ones, Lee here doing a video review of the new movie Prince of Persia, The Sands of Time. This was a movie I've been really looking forward to for like 2, 3 years, however long ago it was announced. I was a big fan of the whole entire franchise. The first Prince of Persia on the Apple II and on DOS, really one of the first games I ever really played. Sands of Time trilogy had a lot of nostalgic value for me, so I was really looking forward to this movie. Little concerned perhaps because here's one of my favorite franchises being made into a movie, and let's face it, most game movies suck at best. So I was a little concerned there. At the same time, I had a lot of hope because the people who made Pirates of the Caribbean, were the ones who made this movie. So it could go either way. I had kind of, the scales were even for me as I was going in, just hoping for the best. And I was pleasantly surprised. I really enjoyed this movie. I guess I'll start off right away. You don't need to have ever played a Prince of Persia video game to appreciate this movie. The story it has the meat and potatoes of The Sands of Time, but they kind of take liberties with the storyline. For example, like a quick rundown, in the video game Prince of Persia, The Sands of Time, the prince is a very hoity, aristocratic, just pretty much a jerk. And he does something really awful, and as he's going on this quest to right this wrong and redeem himself, his character, his persona, does a whole 180 turn. So he goes from a bad guy into a hero, which is pretty cool. Where in the movie, he wasn't born into a regal family, he was an orphan. He's kind of trying to survive and scrape away on the streets of Persia. He does some really noble deeds. Seen by the king adopts him, there we go, adopted Prince of Persia. Problem with different origins is it gives you an entirely different prince. Like I said, in the games, the prince does this terrible deed, and it creates the metamorphosis of him into a hero, where this guy, he's almost too goody-goody. The terrible things that happen, he's set up for, so he's kind of trying to prove his innocence, and it was well done. I just personally would have rather seen heroism be a character development instead of a character trait. But again, it was done well, so I'm probably just trying to pick it apart too much. The character of the prince, he finally has a name in the movies. His name is Dastan, played by Jake Gyllenhaal, who I was admittedly one of the people who was a little concerned about this because he's not really accomplished as an actor. I mean, he was Donnie Darko, and he played a gay cowboy, and if you can do that tastefully, you gotta have some talents, but there was some concern. I think not having an accomplished action star for this role, though, was more beneficial than detracting, because you weren't sitting there comparing Gyllenhaal to any of his past roles, you were just enjoying him as the prince. And also, most action stars are usually big, beefy guys, and that's not what the prince is. Yes, Jake Gyllenhaal probably buffed up about 50 pounds for his role. Maybe it was a little too much. But he stayed true to the character instead of relying sheerly on brute strength and physical force. The prince is an intelligent character. He had to use problem solving to get through his situations. And in all these ordeals that Gyllenhaal's prince is going through, you can see the gears kind of moving behind his eyes as he's trying to piece it all together. How am I going to get through this situation? So I thought as far as representing the prince well, he did very good. Very well, sorry. Clearly he must have played the games a little bit, because I think he really nailed it. He nailed the prince quite well. For trying to take a completely different character and fit him into the shoes of this video game character, he did an exceptional job. I really got to give him props for that. And his counterpart, Gemma Arterton, who played as the Princess Tamina, their on-screen chemistry was just sheer genius. The witty banter between the two of them was entertaining. It was hilarious. It had depth. It was everything you expect from two well-written characters. The constant one-upsmanship of the two of them and their backstabbing of one another, it just made it very entertaining. It did feel like they were borrowing from the recipe of Pirates of the Caribbean, but is that so much a bad thing? It made for a lot of entertainment, so hey, I took it. The character of Tamina also is done very well. She isn't your typical damsel in distress. Yes, a princess in the era of the Persian Empire wouldn't be expected to have combat abilities. So as far as, a sword-to-sword battle, she was kind of useless, but she brought a lot of intelligence and a very sharp wit which made her extremely likable, and she had a lot of impact in all the scenes. The fact she was one of the few people who could actually like think faster and outwit the prince himself, as many times he was left kind of dumbfounded as she was already going on her merry way. So I thought that made her a very strong character, and she definitely contributed. She wasn't just fluff for the prince to go and rescue. The supporting cast also was equally great. The characters of the prince's brothers and the uncle, they really flip-flop back and forth, kind of leave you wondering who's the true villain for the first half of the movie. Again, it is a Disney film, so you kind of know right by looking at the characters who the real villain is, because let's face it, most Disney movies, the villain has a shirt on, it says, "Hi, I'm evil." But they hit it as best they could without making it too obvious. Like, again, this is trying to gear towards not entire families, but a lot of families, so they don't want to make people think too much. So there are characters flip-flopping back and forth, but that's human nature. There's good people who have bad aspects, there's people who are seen as bad, people who do have good elements to them. So they captured human nature better than usually you'll see in a movie like this. So I thought that was very well done. It was a good social commentary, if anything else. And music. Very first thing that grabbed me was the opening number of the movie. Prince of Persia, with the exception of Warrior Within, has always had terrific music. It's very engaging. It's very immersive. You feel like you are in Persian Empire time period. And it's beautiful. It makes like my hair stand up on my arms. And the movie's music did not flaw at all. It definitely did the games proud. Every scene, the ambience is perfect thanks to the music. Like, sometimes it is a little too much. Like, one of the bad guys, he's an assassin and he uses snakes. So every time a snake appears out of his cloak or whatever, it'll have a little, like a little sharp cord. Sometimes it's a little overkill. The first few times it was good, but every time you saw this, that same chord, maybe it was kind of his theme song, was that one chord, but it did get to be a bit much. It's like, we get it, this guy's bad. But they were just trying to drive emphasis home, and I thought they did it well. Maybe a little over top a few times, but it's definitely permissible, because how many people go to a movie based on the music? Not a lot, unless you're going to see a musical, obviously, which this was not. Visually, this movie was just stunning. The costumes were immaculate. The scenery was terrific. You really felt like you were in that era. This obviously had a big budget, and it was used very well. I was very impressed. I don't even know really what to say. Just the visuals were stunning. The characters all looked their part. They all dressed their part. The cities, the deserts, the temples, everywhere they were going just looked fantastic. It was a very visually pleasing movie. And like I said, another great thing about this movie is you don't have to have played a Prince of Persia game to enjoy this, because the characters and the story writing are all done so well that you can just enjoy it. It's like the Prince of Persia story, but with a twist that makes it something new. Disney took this and made it their own, and I thought that was really cool. And they trimmed the fat. There was not too much exposition, but there was enough left out to kind of let you use your imagination to it, which I thought was really cool, because a lot of movies, the killer is either they beat you over the head of exposition or they leave you asking why. It perfectly straddled both lines, and I thought was very tastefully handled. And another little cool element as well, like I said, I'm a fan of the Prince of Persia games, and in almost every other scene, there's some kind of a throwback to a past Prince of Persia game, whether it be the old Apple II version, that really god-awful early 90s Prince of Persia 3D, the Sands of Time trilogy, that new really artistic one that you couldn't die in. There's throwbacks in almost every other scene to all of those games. And it was kind of cool. It's a little bit of fan service to people who've been with the franchise for so long, but they're done so subtly that it doesn't ostracize the audience who've never played a Prince of Persia game. Is it a perfect movie? No, not really. Is it a great movie? I thought so. It's going to be in my library when it comes on Blu-ray. I really definitely like this movie, and I really think that you should go see it, because if you enjoyed like Pirates of the Caribbean and stuff like that, it's not Pirates of the Caribbean in a desert, but you'll enjoy it. It has kind of the same recipe, and it's just a really all-around, very fun movie. It's It's really enjoyable, and I just really recommend it. So go see it. Thanks for watching. The full written review is on liveinlimbo.com. Leave a comment, let me know what you think, and we'll see you soon.